Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm doing something a little bit different and I'm joining in on a hop which is all about organization. On my desk where I film my videos, I have this IKEA drawer unit right in front of me and I keep all of my most used tools inside of it. At first these drawers were a little bit messy, but then I decided to make these little paper bins and they really make a big difference. It helps me to keep everything in its own place and I can find things really easily. So for today's video, I thought I would show you how I made these bins, and the best part about it is you probably already have everything you need, especially if you're into card making and scrapbooking. All you need to make these bins is 12 by 12 patterned paper, scissors, a pencil, a ruler, and some adhesive. Before I start making the actual bin, I like to sketch out a plan. This helps me to not make any mistakes, and it also lets me keep track of all of my measurements. So I just drew a quick little sketch of the box, and now I'm going to add in all of those measurements. In order to get those measurements, you're going to have to measure the inside of your drawer and the actual space that you want your bin to take up. You can make lots of different sizes of bins using this technique, but we are limited by the size of our paper. We're going to be using 12 by 12 patterned paper, which means we can't make ridiculously large bins. So for my drawer, I measured out the space where I want to put a bin, and these are the measurements that I found. It's going to be 7.5 inches long, 3.5 inches wide, and then the height of the bin is going to be 1.5 inches, and there's a little flap that hangs over the side. You can see it right here, and that flap is going to be 0.75 inches. After you're done making your plan, you want to pull out some of that pattern paper that you've been hoarding for far too long and pick out a really pretty piece that you want to use in your drawer. This is a piece of 12 by 12 pattern paper, and the first thing that I'm going to do is flip it over to the side that I don't want to show when it's in the drawer. And on this side, I'm going to make some measurement marks with a pencil. The first measurement that you do is going to be the size of the overhanging flap on the side of your box. And for that flap, I'm doing 0.75 inches. So I made a mark at 0.75 inches. The next measurement that you want to do is the size of the height of your bin. So the height of my bin is 1.5 inches. So I measured from the first mark to 1.5 inches. The third mark that you make is going to be the length of the side. So this side is going to be 7.5 inches long. So I measured from the second mark all the way over to 7.5 inches, and I made my third mark. After that, you need another mark for the size of the height. So I did another 1.5 inches. And then finally, you need another mark for the size of the flap that overhangs on the side. So I did another 0.57 inches. Once one side is all marked, you need to turn the paper 90 degrees and add the marks for the other side of your bin. So it's going to be the same exact thing as the first side, except for the length of the side is going to be different because I'm making a 7.5 by 3 inch size bin. So the length of the side for this one is going to be 3 inches instead of 7.5. At this point, if you don't have a T-square ruler, you're going to want to make the same exact marks on the opposite side of the paper so that you can line them up with a ruler and make a straight line. But if you have a T-square ruler, you can skip that and just make your straight lines using the T-square ruler. I know that all of this might be a little bit difficult to follow on the video, but don't worry, I'm going to have a diagram on the blog post, and hopefully that makes things a little bit more clear. So as you can see, I'm using my T-square ruler and I'm lining it up with those measurement marks that I made, and I'm just making a straight line. This actually can show you a little bit better where I made all of those marks and hopefully make it a little bit more clear. For my 7.5 inch side of the bin, I did use all 12 inches of the patterned paper, but for the opposite side I didn't, so I do have to trim that down. I used a paper trimmer to trim it, but you can use just scissors. This is kind of what your paper should look like at this point. It will vary a little bit because we could be making different size bins, but right now I'm just shading in the areas that need to be trimmed off. The shading really helps me because sometimes I cut the wrong parts, and if the shading's there, I won't cut the wrong part. I like to use scissors in order to trim these parts off. You can use a paper trimmer, but I think scissors is a lot easier and it doesn't have to be super accurate. Next, we need to make a few more cuts. These cuts are going to create some flaps that will wrap around one of the sides and let you be able to glue it together and create your bin shape. And again, if the video is confusing at all, please check my blog for the diagram, and I will have all of these cuts marked on that diagram. The next step is not totally necessary. You can skip it and still make good boxes, but I do think that it is extremely helpful and it makes it a lot easier. You're going to want to use a bone folder and a ruler and score across all of those lines where you're going to fold your box. And this just makes it a lot easier to fold. Like I said, you don't have to do this and you can still fold those edges, but this makes it so much easier. You can do this on a scoreboard if you prefer. I found that just using the ruler on my mat was enough, and I just went over it a few times with my bone folder and I got really nice folds. Once you have all of those lines scored, you want to flip over the paper and start to fold them in the opposite direction, and this is when you'll start to see that box taking shape. Next, you're going to want to pull out your adhesive. I'm going to be using liquid glue, but you can use pretty much any kind of adhesive for this. It just needs to be strong. This is Gina K Designs Connect Glue, and I'm just putting a little bit on there and then I'm spreading it out so that it doesn't ooze out of the sides when I press it down. And then I'm folding it around that side so that I create my box shape. And I'm just going to hold it for a little while until it is completely adhered. I did the same exact thing on the other side, and then I started to glue down all of those overhanging flaps, and I think that this part really just makes the box very clean. You don't have to have these overhanging edges, but if you don't, then it's not going to look as finished. This also helps to give those sides a little bit more strength and sturdiness. These aren't going to be the strongest bins in the world because they are made out of paper, but I find they work really well for what I need them for, and they're also really easy to make if I ever need to replace them. So here is our finished bin, and it will fit all sorts of different crafty materials in it really nicely. I do have an empty space in one of my drawers that I made this bin for, and you'll see that this bin fits perfectly into that space. I'm not exactly sure what I want to put in there, but for now I'm going to put all of my swatches for my cardstock in there, and it fits right in there and it keeps it organized, and I'll be able to find it really easily when I need it. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this video and that it gave you some organization ideas. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.